Amy Zawi with the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert Report for Wednesday, September 16th. Who's standing up for the Jews? Genesis 12:3 tells us God's promise, I will bless you, I will bless those who bless you, referring here to Israel and its people. Isaiah chapter 40 tells us, comfort, comfort my people, says your God, speak tenderly to Jerusalem, and proclaim to her that her heart service has been completed. Last week, I relayed a tiny portion of the persecution and torment that Jews worldwide and the state of Israel endure at the hands of antisemitism. This week, I'd like to highlight not who's pointing fingers at Jews, but rather who's standing up for the Jews and Israel, and who will then benefit from God's promises. On September 15th at the White House, an historic moment occurred. President Trump hosted the leaders of Israel, the UAE, and Bahrain to sign a peace agreement. So who are the players standing up for Israel? The UAE, of course, was the first of the Arab nations in several decades to reach out formally and enthusiastically to normalize relations with Israel. Diplomatic, political, economic, cultural, including direct airline flights, tourism, business deals, scientific partnerships, and more. Bahrain is following suit. They started first by allowing Israeli flights to use its airspace, and now they are formalizing a signed peace agreement. Abu Dhabi directed all of its hotels to offer kosher foods, clearly a gesture of welcome to Jewish patrons. Kosovo and Serbia will recognize Israel and move an embassy to Jerusalem, as announced in early September. The reaction from the EU, the European Union, though, was to economically threaten them for this move. Turkey, of course, is issuing concerns, but President Trump is working hard to counteract that EU threat. The agreement that Trump brokered eased tensions between Serbia and Kosovo, something the EU has been trying to do unsuccessfully for at least 2 decades. And with that deal, the recognition of Israel and the move of the embassy. Now, this deal with Kosovo and Serbia doesn't solve everybody's problems instantly, but it is a clear and decisive move forward to peace and prosperity. The EU is hung up on the Israel component, which is a telling sign in and of itself. More subtle but still profound outcomes so far for the pending peace is Hungary is the only EU member to send a representative to the White House ceremony. Oman openly appraised the agreement and was welcoming to it. Morocco announced direct flights established between it and Israel for business and tourism. Saudi Arabia has opened its airspace to Israeli flights, saving time, money, and fuel, very practical measures, but also revealing an ease in tensions. The Arab League refused to condemn the peace agreements, even at the behest of the Palestinian Authority's demand for it to do so. The PA is also claiming that they will remove their delegates from Arab states, recognizing and normalizing relations with Israel. As the UAE-Israeli peace agreement announced about a month ago is getting its foothold and it's being solidified, these other nations are following the UAE's lead. And I believe these forward-thinking leaders of these nations and their people will receive the blessings of Genesis 12:3. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And when God commands us to comfort his people, we can do so in many ways. Our organization does this through our Operation Life, Moses projects, whose efforts in Israel are to save unborn Israelis. They receive our prayers and our support. The Aliyah programs we help support help Jews worldwide realize the generational dream of returning to the land of Israel. Shelley Neese's archaeology endeavors reveal the land's empirical evidences supporting Israeli texts and other Jewish texts. There are so many ways to comfort the Jewish people. Their safety and security is, of course, a pivotal avenue on which we can comfort her people. And the UAE peace agreement brokered by President Trump is not just about ending the hostile tensions between Arab nations and Israel. It has far more reaching influences. But let's go back to the Arab League. Why is their silence so important? The Arab League was founded in 1945 to organize Arab nations specifically to oppose the nation-state of Israel. Its formation's purpose was to unite otherwise factioned Arab nations and groups against Israel. This unity was to be militarily, economically, political, and the like. It was the Arab League's initiatives that first started the boycott measures against Israel since its founding in 1948. The boycott is administered by the Damascus-based Central Boycott Office, a specialized bureau of the Arab League. In the 1970s, the U.S. government made it actually illegal for U.S. companies to participate in these boycotts. But the current BDS movement is founded in this mindset. Because of the inner Arab rivalries, the League has generally been unable to pursue any consistent agenda besides this general opposition to Israel. Therefore, the current silence from the Arab League is angering the Palestinian Authority and its supporters who blame Israel for all the region's problems. By 2016, the PA was getting very frustrated with the Arab League, noting that the issues of the Palestinian was no longer a concern or a priority for them. And according to the Council on Foreign Relations, in February of 2020, the League officially denounced the Middle East peace plan that was put forth by President Donald Trump's administration. And it publicly stated, quote, "It does not meet the minimum rights and aspirations of the Palestinian people." Yet, several League members appeared to tacitly support the plan. Ambassadors from Bahrain, Oman, and leaders from Egypt and Saudi Arabia commended Trump's efforts. And now we are seeing more than a commending. We are seeing participation. To the dismay of the PA leadership, the UAE and the other influential leaders in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia are thinking for themselves with a new integrity, shaking off the blind hate of generations of Arafat followers. Arabs and their leaders are seeing Israel as a light in their region, a powerhouse of innovation, potential economic partner, strategic security partner. So, as the Arab nation peace seekers move forward, they will bless Israel in several ways. One, by recognizing them. Two, refusing to fold into the demands of the PA. Three, calling out the lies against Israel that have been drummed in for so long and identifying the true culprit of Palestinian suffering, their own leadership. Three, normalizing relations from political to economic, cultural, artistic, educational. These enumerated blessings are comforting to Israel. The results that I have seen is social media being flooded with photos of collaboration between Jews and Arabs. Israeli models on photo shoots in Arab lands with Arab models. Israeli musicians performing in Arab lands. Arab musicians performing Hebrew and Israeli melodies. Collaboration between businesses, security organizations, scientists, specifically the medical field, educational organizations. Tourism is already out front. Artists, the list goes on. And now, not to mention, President Trump has been nominated several times for the Nobel Peace Prize in his efforts in these monumental happenings. I've heard for a few months now from people close to me who work and associate with various Arab officials that the mood is they want peace. They want progress. They want the standards of their people and Israelis to be raised. Standards including safety, security, economic, and cultural collaboration. Let me not fail to mention that for over a decade, evangelical leaders have met with Arab leaders in outings of goodwill and relationship building. I believe these actions had some influences on today's happenings. Many have worked hard for decades, fostering back-channel diplomacy and relationship building to bring what we see in the light of day today. It's coming to fruition. Shall we continue and bless and comfort for the benefit of all? Shavua Tov. Have a great week.